Welcome to another edition of Rams Up Roundtable. I'm your host, Tom Courts at Rounds Beat on Twitter. And I'm joined today by our Rams Up co-host, Mark, and regular Ian. How's it going, guys?
Pretty good.
Doing
Good.
good.
Got a lot of it's starting to heat up, huh, Ian?
Yep, I'm gonna say the chaos is starting soon. And
Yes, it is
just
starting.
remember, it's BS season. Just be careful what you're hearing. All these weird things about, oh my God, Zach Wilson would be such a great fit for the backup for the Rams. Or you're hearing a bunch of other weird things about every team in the NFL. If it's not from your reliable team reporters, and everyone knows who those people are for your specific squad, and everyone should know who they are for the Rams. Or they're not the big NFL guys who are very credible. Just be careful. Just be careful. That's all I gotta say.
Well, there's lots of factual news. Lots of players getting tagged today, and lots of players not getting tagged that we all thought would. There's a lot of players getting cut, cap casualties, and so forth. So we're going to dive into all of that. A little bit of Rams interest in the wide receiver group at the combine. And also in the free agency realm. But we're going to just start with a little bit of a rapid fire latest news, and just kind of react to it and fly through it. So we're going to start with just kind of this Russell Wilson cut, right? So he gets cut, and his dead cap. This is such a bad contract that his dead cap is like 85 million. I'm rounding, and it's so high this year. It's just this. It's so high that it is more than twice as much as the next two combined. So the next two added up to like 80 million. It was two, like a 40 million and a 40 million. It was, I don't know. It was like,
I've been saying for a couple of years that I thought his play had fallen off. I mean, there's moments where he still looks like the old Russell Wilson, but I don't know. I thought he was a little bit overrated in his last year or two with Seattle, but kind of saw this coming.
Yeah, well, let Russell cook. Russell is cooked, and so, but from our perspective, from the Rams' perspective, we just want to juxtapose that for a second, Ian, with that trade, and then the Watson trade, and all that Cleveland gave up, and how much they gave Watson, 230 fully guaranteed, versus our Stafford trade, and what that has yielded. And with 2 firsts for Stafford, but here we are, a Super Bowl trophy in hand, and looking to run it back this year. So just put some perspective on a couple of these these mammoth quarterback trades in the last few years.
Yeah, and let's not forget about Jamal Adams getting dumped off today, and they gave up 2 first rounders for him. The Jets were able to steal from the Seattle Seahawks as he gets cut with Quandre Diggs today. So, I mean, the Rams, they've made those big boy trades. Think of all the other players, and obviously quarterback is the most important, and we're lucky. We're just so lucky Matt Stafford's that dude. Great leadership, great toughness, no locker room problems, no off the field problems, and then the most importantly, dude's a baller, and it's worked out. He's played great football every time he's been protected and has been healthy. He's been a top 10 quarterback, undebatable. And gentlemen, I mean, for a trade that monumental, to give up multiple first rounders, what more could you have asked for? Shoot. All these other teams tried to copy us, and it went down the drain. And I know Cleveland, people will argue, hey, they're still making the playoffs. And that's true. It's because their roster is pretty dang good overall. But the Watson experiment has been bad. Let's just be honest. Off the field, troubling things, major surgeries and injuries on the field. We're blessed. Rams Nation, we're blessed. Be grateful that Matthew Stafford's our quarterback, and stop trying to get the future here so suddenly. Oh my God, trade up for Bo. Oh my God, trade up for Penix. Oh my God, please realize how blessed we are to have a top 10 quarterback who's still slinging a rock. Please.
We're in the Aaron Donald. We're in the Aaron Donald window, and those guys are probably about on the same timeline. And so, we got to push the chips in, and a second quarterback isn't going to help us help us get over the hump. Right. So no time to start rebuilding. So moving on to the next topic. So let's just quick reactions to one Brandon Staley being hired as the assistant head coach for the San Francisco 49ers. Mark, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure what to make of that. I guess he could help the 49ers with respect to the Rams, but maybe the opposite is true as well. Don't really know what his role there is going to be, right? He's just going to be some type of defensive consultant, I guess, or has that even been defined?
I want to
I don't
say,
know.
Mark, he's the assistant head coach, if I read that correctly somewhere.
Yeah,
Is
he
he
was
this?
assistant head coach is his title, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean much.
He'll be pretty involved then. He'll be pretty
Yeah.
involved. Yeah. And I think
I
this
think
hire, real quick, I think this hire overall is, hey, we run the Seattle cover 3 scheme. That is the base 4-3. And everybody, real quick, let's get familiar with what that couple terms are. 4-3 meaning there's 4 true defensive linemen, and then there's 3 standing up linebackers behind the D line. There's 2 D tackles, 2 defensive ends, and a 3-point stance with their hand in the dirt. Usually you want bulkier guys, okay? Cover 3, real quick, to sum it up shortly for everybody, is that you have 3 defenders that are dedicated to covering deep. 3, which is the cover 3. Everybody else underneath. So that is the base of the 49ers defense, the base of the Seattle scheme that the Legion of Boom was so great at, and really good for 4-3 style defenses. That is the base of the 49ers defense. Bringing on Staley, him being a 3-4 guy, a nose tackle, 2 D tackles, 2 inside linebackers, and 2 outside linebackers, which is what we run. Is very, very much more multiple in terms of the things you can do out of a 3-4, in my opinion, which is why Fangio's system was killing offenses so much. And I think why Kyle Shanahan wanted to bring him on, to get a different flavor of defense, because let's be real, 4-3 defenses have blown multiple Super Bowl leads now in recent memory. And they've been pretty good too, right? Steve Spagnuolo, Kansas City Chiefs, you can argue that 4-3 defense has been historic, and it's time for the Giants. But more than not, 4-3 defenses get exposed late in games for being a little too simplistic in terms of the finality of what they want to do to defend offenses. So bringing on Staley, I think, is a different flavor. Hey, what is your Fangio style stuff to help us out late in games to stop screwing up Super Bowls and NFC Championship games? I think that's why Staley's there. Long story short.
My thought on that is that when I first saw that, I mean, look, Shanahan is not. He's the last guy that evolves, right? I mean, he is dead set in his ways. He loves that defense.
Yeah.
Wilkes couldn't even execute it. He's doubled down with his internal hire on the D coordinator. And so my thought is that, hey, he brings in somebody who's extraordinarily good at attention to detail, and just kind of like it from an administrative standpoint, like help him out with all of his administrative stuff, a la the assistant head coach, but also to act as essentially a scout coach against his offense, because so many teams are running the 3-4 now. Most teams are running the 3-4, and they're even incorporating that high shell, that Fangio high shell, right? It wasn't just the Rams. It's a lot of teams are increasingly, especially in the NFC. And so I feel like they bring him in as an expert in that area to help him with his offensive.
Well, isn't that exactly what the Rams just did with the one hire? I forget his name. They just brought someone on.
Yeah, Sean Desai. He's a 4-3 guy.
Right.
So it's a different perspective into the things that you don't normally do.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, hey, here's a question for Ian. It just struck me. If they were to move to a 3-4, would Joey Bosa be a good fit for that?
Nick Bosa for the 49ers.
Bosa, yeah, doesn't that?
I mean, I think he could do it, but I just think they are built for 4-3. They've drafted for 4-3. Right?
Exactly.
That takes time. Like, think about when we made the switch. That's why Robert Quinn was sent away, because he was more of a 4-3 defensive end guy, bulkier, hand in the dirt, not standing up. Even though I thought he did a good job, but I mean, overall, Les and them made the right decision to move on. And could they do it because they're so talented on defense? I'm sure they could have done it, but for their window, right? The window of trying to win the championship, for them to have a complete overhaul of your language, of how you call plays with the players, a whole new playbook. There's very little transactional words, schemes that go over from 3-4 to 4-3, as I explained, 5 minutes ago about how different it is. So it wouldn't have made sense. And I always knew deep down Shanahan was not going to make that schematic switch in this type of window. Maybe when the window's over and then you can redo the roster and lean that way. But at this moment in time, with everyone they have there, it would be foolish. Just like us. Why would we switch to 4-3 all of a sudden? It wouldn't make sense either.
Shanahan's definitely married to he loves his 4-3 defense.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next topic, let's touch on this NFLPA report card. Right? I mean, the Rams have over and over come out on the C to D end of the report card, but let's just talk about what areas they're deficient in or getting bad grades in, and it's mostly there's two areas. It's number one.
Real quick, I have the report card in front of me. Should we just bang through it real quick? But
to summarize, it's mostly facilities, right?
Yeah.
It's mostly their facilities, right? Because they're in temporary facilities that were meant to be there for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And they're now going into their 8th year in these facilities.
It's crazy, honestly.
That are just run down, right? The field is beautiful up there. Now they're going to move these temporary facilities to the valley to Woodland Hills, but it's still going to be temporary. I don't know if they're going to be different facilities, but that's number one. Right now, that's understandable. They haven't been able to execute on a permanent practice facility, which is a big deal, and that's where these players spend the majority of their time. And so, of course, if you're in trailers, in these little Quonset huts, you're going to get you're going to get bad. Now, I thought they'd be worse. Like, I mean, they're number 22 out of 32. Like,
I know.
How are 10 teams worse than that?
Well, you know what? Tom, it has to be those cold weather cities where things are just has to be right. I mean, we can go through the report card. We're not going to do that right now. Yeah. But I'm sure if I had to put money on it, it has to be the cold weather cities that it's probably not enjoyable.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, the other area where they have not graded well is in I don't know what the
treatment of families. That's the one.
Treatment of families. Yeah.
What the hell's up with that?
Yeah, treatment of families. That's exactly what it is. So that's what I was thinking of as well. So I mean, I think there's some. Jordan Rodriguez looked into this at the combine because she was curious what the hell that meant and couldn't really get a straight answer from anyone. But but she because it's not defined, and so wanted more specifics. Rams really didn't know what it was, and so she started poking around with other people from other teams, and kind of came to the conclusion that it might have to do with stuff as I mean, it seems nominal to us, but if you're going every game, maybe it's not, like access to parking or access to seats and things like that.
So, I mean, I understand that the parking. Look, SoFi Stadium's gnarly. I mean, anybody out there's been, go as early as you can and beat the traffic. Park somewhere else. Take an Uber 5-10 minutes down the road. It's chaotic, man. So if that's the case, that's chaotic. I get it, but the seat thing, I would understand. I mean, think about it, gentlemen. I mean, shoot, dude. Like, maybe there's some family that wants to go to every game. I understand that, but it's a brand new stadium. I feel like seating that shouldn't be an issue. And you know what? That's unfortunate thing about our Hall of Famers in this organization who've had issues with that. Eric Dickerson's been very vocal about the seats and where he's gotten tickets and how crappy they've been in the past here in LA, Coliseum or at SoFi. So that's something hopefully that can be worked on because that's just unacceptable. A D, man, dude.
I know our stars. I mean, the stars and the influencers on YouTube and
that's a good point, Tom.
TikTok and all of those guys.
They get the premium stuff.
They get the premium stuff because they're adding value. Wrong. I mean, it's an algorithm.
I didn't think about that. We're trying to be Lakered out here, right?
I mean, do the math. I mean, how hard is it? You're talking about maybe 100 seats
Yeah.
for
It's going to
family.
be more than that. I mean, you're talking about I mean, you're talking about 50, 50 odd rostered players, their families. You got the staff and their family. I mean, there's a lot of seats that need to go out to people, and there's a
That's
value
true.
judgment. So
But you're bringing
it's
up the star thing and the YouTubers and the TikTokers
yeah.
and
Well,
them
that's the
getting all
thing.
these
Is like
premium seats. I
yeah,
could see if I were a family, I'd be like, screw these people. Like, we're the ones that are supporting, really.
yeah, exactly. And the in these other cities though, and it's all this is all a comparison, right? So you get a guy
Yeah.
who plays for the Rams and he used to play for the Bengals. It's like shit, and I used to get 6 seats right up front with my family, right? But in SoFi, there's a lot more it's a lot
Yeah,
more star power.
and I don't know. This may sound a little harsh, but to me, it's almost like first world problems. Okay,
I mean,
you're not
yeah.
getting nice seats.
I mean, yeah.
You know?
I know.
Well, yeah, they want to be down there next to their family member or whatever.
I mean, who knows?
There's
Maybe was it like they're not getting like the sideline passes like pregame? Maybe they don't
right.
allow that. Like,
Yeah.
that would be kind of annoying too. I mean, you see Kelly and you see the Donald family, you see the star players. Maybe there's some other players that up and coming, maybe under players that do play, but they're like, hey, it'd be cool to have my family. Maybe they don't allow it. I'm just trying to rationalize why we're getting a D. The Rams
Right.
getting a D, like, damn, dude. I mean,
I know it's
that's
nasty.
tough. That's tough, man.
It's so funny
That's
because
tough,
every
dude.
year I open that thing, I've done it. It's kind of fooled myself. It's a year you forget about last year. I opened it up this year thinking, oh, my Rams are going to be at the top of the barrel, right? Everyone, and
yeah. So what are we right now? We're 20th out of 32. I mean, damn, dude. We're not even in the top half. But real quick, while I have the grade, what are the good grades? Let's try to be positive at the end of this. Strength coaches A-. Cool. Head coach A. Perfect.
It's the people. And look, the bottom line is the people get good grades. The facilities and policies get bad grades. Let's just just kind of sum it up. So, all right, moving on. Let's move on to Let's move on to a little bit of hard truths here about our 2 of the 3 of our weight-bearing walls in our remodel year. So to start with, we'll move Cooper into the wide receiver conversation we're about to have, but Aaron Donald. So Aaron Donald, to recap, coming off the Super Bowl, he said he might retire, which we all knew was code for I'm under contract. I have no leverage except I might retire. So he said I might retire, and they gave him a new contract as a kind of a award. I mean, he played great. He deserved it, etc.
I took that serious too. By the way, I was like, it was. I mean,
I didn't. I felt like he wanted a new contract and get $100 million, and that's the way to leverage it. I mean, that's the only leverage you have.
No, that's 100% true.
That's the only leverage you have if you're under contract, and it's like you're not a free agent, you're not a this, you're not a that. It's like, oh, I'm going to quit, and unless you give me more money. And I mean, he didn't even get a new he didn't even get a new he didn't even get an extension. He just got a straight up raise from 20 million to 30 million for 3 years. So anyway, bottom line is he's now in the third year of going into the third year of that $30 million a year contract. And, he said very clearly he loves playing with these guys. He's looking forward to coming back with all these young guys next year. But there's still some questions in the in the clubhouse whether or not he's going to try and leverage his situation for another contract. So just kind of there's no smoke, there's no nothing, there's just speculation. So anyway, if Aaron Donald came out and said, hey, the cap's up to 255 and I'm only making 30, some of these guys are going to be making more than me, Chris Jones or whoever, some of these guys, I want a raise next year from 30 to 35 or 40, and I want a new 3-year deal for 120 fully guaranteed. I mean, what would your guys' thoughts be on that?
Go ahead.
You want to go first? My reaction is I'm sitting here hearing this. It really annoys me.
I can see on your face. Yeah.
I could understand. I mean, I love Aaron Donald, and we're trying to get something done here as a team. To me, it comes off as a little bit selfish. How
Now, he
much,
hasn't said this, just to be
yeah,
fair.
yeah.
Let's just be clear.
If
He
that
has
were,
not said this.
yeah,
This is all speculation.
yeah. Well,
Well,
the
real
fact that,
quick, the fact I just think like how Les and Sean haven't been like, yeah, he's coming back. They haven't said that yet when they've been
No,
asked. I mean, that's a little
100%
like
they haven't said that yet.
I'm
well,
like, hey, what's
maybe
going
He's
on?
going through his process, you know.
maybe I should start by saying whoever started the speculation, I'm annoyed at them because why create
Ourselves, maybe our own,
yeah, I don't know where
GM.
this. I don't know what the genesis of this is, but if it were to come to pass, I could see giving him a nominal raise, some percentage based on the increase in the salary cap. But if he's going to play this "I'm retiring" game,
I hope not.
yeah, I know, but you can't. You just can't keep on doing this.
I
There's,
agree.
But love Aaron
And-
Donald. I don't want to piss him off, but
One of the
Yeah,
and
my
one
guy.
of the you know, just as a backdrop to this whole conversation, when players do this crap, then teams, you know, start to look for trade partners who, for a team, oftentimes look for trade partners for the team that is
Yeah.
willing to give somebody that the deal that they're not willing to give them. Right. Well, in this case, Aaron Donald also has a no trade clause, a full
Yeah.
100% ironclad no trade clause. So yeah, it creates a lot of leverage for him. But you know, anyway, just wanted to touch on that. It's no real news because none of this is out of the mouth of Aaron Donald or his camp. So, but something to keep an
Please,
eye on,
damn
right?
it. Please, damn it.
He has always, every single time he's in the last year of his contract, he's always leveraged it into something else. So it's that the history, you know, let history be thy guide is kind of in play here. So just keep something to keep an eye on. Next topic is wide receiver interest from the LA Rams. Okay, so the Rams obviously had given Cooper Kupp an extension. You know, hit on absolute pure gold with Puka Nacua in the 5th round, and you know, and as an All Pro, and re-signed their super solid number 3 in with Robinson, right? In a very, you know, really good contract, right? It's something like 3 to 4 million with some incentives up to 5 or something like that. So you know, DeMarcus, it was so good for us. And so, you know, you'd think with maybe Skoranek and Tutu and, you know, and some other guys in backup roles, it's like we're all set. But surprisingly, the Rams it's reported that had expressed interest in Evans before he re-signed with
Mike Evans, man.
Yeah, with Mike Evans before he re-signed with Tampa Bay, and they were in conversations with him. They've met with several wide receivers at the combine, including guys that they'd have to trade up for, like
Roma Dunze, man.
Yeah,
that guy's good, man.
and so forth. So I mean, he's probably a top 10 guy, and so yeah, it's just interesting to me. I mean, Mark, what are your thoughts on the Rams doubling down on top tier wide receiver talent like Mike Evans and Roma Dunze, and how does that reflect on perhaps Cooper Kupp's availability and health situation?
well, yeah, to me it means that they are concerned about his long-term health. As simple as that. This offense, a Sean McVay offense, he's got to have 2 receivers, 2 highly productive receivers, if not 3. And right now, as the roster stands, if Cooper Kupp is banged up early in the year, the machinery doesn't grind to a halt, but you know it's handicapped a little bit. That's what I don't know. I don't know what else to make of it. I mean, I certainly don't. If Cooper Kupp's 100%, do you go out and get Mike Evans just for insurance, or to sit down to Marcus Robinson? That doesn't sound. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it would be a high priority unless you're concerned about Cooper Kupp. But I'm just guessing. I could be completely wrong.
Ian, thoughts?
Look at guys, the end is coming. It is. I'm just looking. Me and Paul have alluded to it. We've talked about it. All of us have talked about it. The window is closing with this trio of Stafford, Kupp, and Donald in the next year or two. 2 years max.
I thought you were talking about the planet Earth there for a second.
No. We'll still be floating in outer space, everybody. We'll be okay. No, but look at guys. We just got to be honest with ourselves. I love Cooper Kupp, all-time great Ram, legend, whatever that means to you. He is that for the LA Rams. He's had 3 season-ending altering injuries since he's been a pro. 2018, he tears his ACL midway through. He would have been a Pro Bowler, All-Pro, probably win the Super Bowl that year. Let's just be honest. We beat the Patriots with a healthy Cooper Kupp. 2019 was cool. 2020, he can't play the second round of playoffs because he bruised a tendon and something in his knee, another knee injury. I don't remember exactly what that was, but he couldn't, he was hurt that Seattle game. He injured it then and couldn't play the Green Bay game where he was heavily needed and we lost. 21 was MVP Kupp, great. And then 2022 has the tightrope surgery on the ankle because he jacked it up pretty bad. And then last year, he's on and off hurt. Had a 1 week against the Eagles where he looked completely healthy, and then that was it. And he still played good, let's be honest. It wasn't bad, but he wasn't 100% Cooper Kupp. And with him having such massive money invested in him and then that position overall, I mean, we can't have another season like that. And then let's just be honest about the whole wide receiver group as a whole. He has 2 more void years, but this is really the last year of his deal if we keep it real, right? I know there's 25 and 26, but those are void years, if I'm not mistaken. So this is really the final year of his guaranteed salary, 2024 coming up. Not only that, Skoranek will be a free agent. Tutu will be a free agent. Their rookie contracts will be done after the season. D-Rob was only re-signed for 1 year. And then so it's really just Puka is guaranteed any runway for the foreseeable future. So the Rams are being smart by looking into, hey, let's not just worry about today and this upcoming season. What's it gonna be next season and the beyond that? And I think it's smart of them to look forward because I think if you're just drafting for need when it comes up, you're in trouble, man. And look at Logan Bruss. We drafted for need, and look how that turned out. Look how other positions that we drafted for need have turned out when it was, oh my God, we're screwed if we don't draft that position. So I think Rams meeting with Odunze, pursuing Mike Evans. I'm sure they're going to meet with a ton of other mega talented wide receivers, which the draft is insane, by the way, for just raw athletes. I've been starting to study some of these receivers and offensive tackles and other players. Jeez Louise. We're getting some freak athletes entering this upcoming draft, and we're going to get some good players, I feel. But my whole point is, long story short, is Rams are being smart by meeting with college guys and even trying to pursue other established players because not only are we trying to be all in now, but we got to think of the future too. And Kupp's time is winding down. We just got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you can't cut him this year. So this is the year. I mean, we're talking about Donald and Stafford, and
this is it.
Kupp isn't as old as those guys, but he's he's not breaking down. He's physically as old as those guys.
Real quick, he's also our best fullback. Like, that people forget about that. Best wide receiver, then he's blocking middle linebackers and DN every other play like a fullback, and he's great at it. But that's aged him clearly as well. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so this is the year. I mean, we got anyway. We'll get more into that. I've been harping on that ever since beginning of last year. Right, last year was a cash-in year and get a bunch of young guys in there, and that's exactly what this is turning out to be. I mean, obviously overperformed last year with all those, that fantastic draft class and some stellar free agent signings. But really reflect on last year's job. I mean,
we should have won. We should have had a deep playoff run. Honestly, it should have been a fantastic season.
They were close. I mean, if they had believed that they could have done that, and this is Paul Wallia's point, is that if they believed that they could have done that and invested in some special teams and a backup quarterback, it might have been different, right? And so, but they didn't believe it. They thought it was going to be a kind of a retool year, and really wasn't much there. But anyway, the NFC was so weak.
But gentlemen, let me ask you: how high do you think the Rams are going to take a receiver? If I had to put money on it, I think they're going to trade up for a receiver in the first round. I think they are.
It's going to be
Really
pricey
think they are.
though. I
think
was
they're going to do it.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but the math is going to be, they may have to give up. They could potentially have to give up a first rounder next year, at least a second rounder next year.
I'm not saying
It's
like a big
doable.
trade up. I'm not saying a big trade up like to the top 8, but like I think we're at 19. I think maybe like upper teens, closer to 10 in that range.
But if you're looking at one of those top 3 receivers, I don't know, man.
Real quick, Odunze's legit. The LSU duo, Neighbors and Harris Jr. If I remember it correctly.
Yeah, is it Young? I'll look it up.
Gosh, I should know my name. The Florida State receiver. Who else am I blanking on right now? I mean,
you put Keon Coleman in that group?
He's pretty good too. Yes, he's pretty good too. I mean, it is slam dunk ballers at the receiver position. It's crazy. So I think if any of those guys, and obviously we get closer to the draft, we can start talking about them a little bit more. But I think if those guys are available, I think they're going to try to get one of them.
Yeah, well, I think you could stay at 19 and get, I don't know if you're talking about Ricky Pearsall or Keon Coleman or the number 2 receiver at LSU. I think they'll all be there at 19. Odunze, Neighbors, and Harrison.
Yeah, I expect them to be gone pretty soon. But
yeah,
I think they might trade back and then grab somebody like Ladd McConkey in the mid-20s.
Yeah, if they did.
I think they trade back, get a McConkey who's right up the Rams' alley, and who's expected to go, kind of late first round, and then you also pick up another pick, and then maybe you can package some of those second rounders for something. So there's so much quality here that I don't think you need to trade up to get a superstar. I mean, we have a superstar. So
real quick though, I just think they're not going to stay at 19. I don't think they are. They're going to trade up or trade down. I don't think 19 is the spot.
I 100% agree. I think it's trade down because there's like to your point, Ian. There's so many good players on the board. They're going to see all these guys and they're going to be like, "Hey, let's trade down, get some other picks. We're going to pick a guy. We're going to get a guy that we want anyway." And you know how the Rams are. They're not like obsessed with 4.3 40s and other stuff. They're just, they're looking at different metrics.
I think I've been going back and forth on this, and I've decided that, and I think the consensus is there's about 15 guys that are really, really true high-grade first-round picks. Rams are picking 19th. So they either move up, but it's so costly. You move back, and like Ian said, you can actually, if look at it, I call it the doomsday situation. Coleman, Shelton, and Kevin Dotson both leave. Now you want a wide receiver and an interior offensive lineman. In that case, you move back.
Yeah.
And you can get them both.
Oh, Brian Thomas Jr. Sorry, receiver I was talking about. I mean, him and Malik Neighbors is like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown at Ole Miss, where you're like, dude, it's a Jarvis Landry, OBJ. Maybe it's necessarily the same skill sets, but like a duo where you're like, dude, both these guys are insane. Or even like a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Like these guys are filthy. Obviously with everyone else. And we'll get closer to draft time. We'll talk about it more, but I just want to make sure I get that name right. Brian Thomas Jr. That's a freak athlete right there with Neighbors as well. Woo, we'll see, man. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at it based off the situation I outlined about no receivers other than Puka going to be on the roster next season.
Yeah, if they could move back and get Powers, the Oregon interior offensive lineman, and Ladd McConkey.
Yeah,
that'd be
true. I mean, free agency is going to dictate all of this too, right? Let's be honest. Depending on who you re-sign and sign, that's going to flow into him. So
let's move into free agency real quick. Let's talk about the tag players, the players that notably have not been tagged, and then the players that have been cut. And there are more to come, and we all know that. But as of this recording here at 6-7 o'clock Pacific time on Tuesday, here are the notable tag players, right? Pittman, Burns, Johnson, Matabuke, Winfield, Josh Allen, T. Higgins, L'Jarius Sneed, and Antoine Winfield. So
Good group
you know,
right there.
I mean, and we were talking, kind of before we got into this about the history of tag players being traded, right? And it's not that great, right? Most of these tag players are tagged and then they're, to buy time to work out a longer term deal with their team. That's just, that's just the history of it. Not saying that
Yeah.
it couldn't happen, but, there's a lot more conversation about a tag player getting ready to be traded than ever happens. There's a lot of reasons for it because
Yeah, I
the
agree.
new team has to give a long-term contract. Otherwise, they're not going to give up a lot of assets. And, it's just aren't tagged that are going to become free agents that are looking for a haul are Chris Jones, Wilkins from the Dolphins, Saquon, a couple of running backs, which we all know Saquon and Josh Jacobs, Ridley, Xavier McKinney, some of these guys, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be free agents.
Every running back you can think of.
Yeah, every
Right.
running back you think of. But you got Jacobs and Barkley are the premier guys. But the point is, the Rams. Let's face it, they don't very rarely pay free agents, right? They don't believe free agents or they think free agents are free agents for a reason, and much, much, much more inclined to trade high picks for somebody that's already under contract for a whole bunch of reasons we can get into another time. But the players they love are the players that get cut. So Darius Williams, one of our old buddies, right? Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, Uzoma,
I like Diggs.
Eric Kendricks got cut.
That'd be cool.
Jerome
Keep him in
Baker,
LA.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so some of these guys could be had for. I don't know if some of these guys are in the mode of reclamation years or whatever whatever they are, but those kinds of players like to come back to the Rams. So anyway, just wanted to throw out some of those names. And
I like some of those names, Tom. I like Kendricks to be teamed up with Jones. Keep him at, he's a UCLA guy. Went with the Chargers, right? Purposely to stay in LA. I can see him. He's already played in a 3-4 scheme. He's got a year under his belt in that. He can come with us, stay in the city. I don't see why that wouldn't be a good option as our second inside linebacker. Pretty good.
Dude,
I think Quandre Diggs, who has been a pain in the ass on our side for many, many years, and who Matthew Stafford says is a great safety. Him and Stafford have a great relationship. Accordingly, every time they have conversations on the field, that's all you ever hear. That'd be a cool signing to be a safety for us. I would be very accepting of that. And then those are the two that just right off the bat, I'd be like, boom, we can fill them in as a starting guys on our defensive unit.
Mark, would you like to have Darius Williams back?
Oh, and Darius, Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he had a pretty good year with the Jags, as far as I know. So yeah, I mean, he was a big play guy for the Rams. I liked him. We certainly have a need. He'd be, I guess, what you call a tier 2 cornerback. The problem is, would you want Akilo and Darius?
Who would you rather have? Who would you rather have, Mark? Akilo or Darius?
I really don't. I'm not qualified to answer that. I think Akilo because he's, he was here last year and he's better to roll with what you had last year if it was working. That would be but I don't feel strongly.
How about you, Ian, Akilo or Darius?
It's a quick question, man, because look, let's have a little nuanced mini conversation about this. Akilo was awesome the first part of the year. Let's be real. The film doesn't lie. He was legit.
Yeah, then
he pulled his growing and then he was played through it. Props to him. He didn't bitch about it. He didn't complain about it. He didn't make news about it. Only little reporters will he'd say, hey man, Akilo's playing through that. Or he would say it's no excuse. And I respect the hell out of that gladiator mentality, man. But again, when you're not 100%, you can't be the legit player you can be, which he was. And I think Darius would require just more money. So based off Akilo's healthy play, based off the money, Akilo to be one of our starting corners again would be the right move, both financially and both from a skill set standpoint. Now, Darius Williams back on an affordable deal would be awesome too. I would feel comfortable with them two being our starting outside corners, most definitely. And for all you Rams fans out there that complained and bitched about Darius Williams his last year with us when we won a championship, do you not realize the scheme we were doing that was pissing everybody off? The very soft zone, 70s off the ball. Can you tell me any corner that would be, oh my God, he's so great in that scheme? You know, we've changed since then a little bit, which Darius was really great at press man coverage, really great at the match zone when Brandon Staley was with us, when he was intercepting pick sixes and making crazy plays. It's not going to be that same Raheem Morris off zone Super Bowl defense. So I would welcome them both back. Either or would make me happy. But Akello for the money and the most recent good play when he's healthy, I choose them.
And that would alleviate the need to draft a cornerback early. You still probably want to draft one in the third, fourth round, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But
there's
you
some
Rams
good
fans
corners
out there, we're going to educate you here on this pod about talking crap about certain players for not a good reason. Darius was a good player. Let's not get it twisted.
I'll never forget that pick six in Seattle, man. That was like a gem.
Yeah, it's great time.
Yeah, Darius. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a little longer in the tooth since then, but
yeah, he is.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, but that just means he might come cheaper. So depending on what kind of suitors he has. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. I just feel like there's so many players out here that are going to be free agents that are cut. I mean, not to mention the guys that are trade bait with guys with teams wanting to move off of them, and that's what the Rams really like to do, is trade away draft picks to get proven players under contract. And so I think the Rams are just going to be over the next several weeks extremely aggressive. And
it's going to be great.
And and they're they said these free agent situations with like Dotson and Witherspoon, all these guys, and Coleman Shelton, they have to bake. They have to have time to, those, they want to give those guys the respect to go out and find out what their value is in the free market. And but things are going to get hot and heavy.
I mean, gentlemen, we're going to meet next time. Free agency will have 1 day of chaos. It's going to be great.
Yeah,
it's going to be so much to talk about.
And will you be excited? Will you be excited if their first signing is a kicker?
Depending on who it is, I'll feel better about it. I mean, that's a position we haven't talked about.
I'm hoping it is. Not necessarily the first, but I hope they just get that addressed. They got to.
I think they think that kickers are just they can figure it out later, and and just because hey, look what we did with Matt Gay. He's off the scrap heap, and next thing you know, 2 years later, we turned him into our
highest paid kicker in the history of
our special teams kicker whisperers turned him into the highest paid kicker. So we can do it again.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know it's crazy.
I know, but anyway. It's going to be, guys. I'm excited, man. It's going to be a crazy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be crazy. Is it March 13th? Is it
March 11th? Is in the negotiating where all the early signings happen. It's not official, but you hear all the early news.
You're allowed.
You agreed to terms.
They're allowed to start. They're allowed to start having conversations.
I'm going to put in my leave slip right now.
Yeah, Monday.
So it's going to be good times. And last year we knew the Rams were, we have to be disciplined, and they have $75 million in dead cap already, and discipline meant we can't go out and start to spend. It was a boring offseason, but this year it's a whole different ball game. They saved up, and it's time to splurge because Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, our weight-bearing walls, have only so much life left in them. So anyway, well, let's wrap it up there, guys. Good conversation, and teeing all this. Basically, all this stuff was teeing up, for the next week or two. So really look forward to those conversations. And thanks for being here. And we'll wrap it up there. This has been the Rams Up Roundtable. Look forward to talking to you guys next week. And again, I'm Tom Courts, your host at RamsBeat on Twitter, joined by my co-hosts Mark and Ian. And thanks a lot, guys.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Heck yeah. We got the money. Time to spend and win another championship, baby. Let's go. Horns up.